Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? You are listening to the That's Npthing podcast for Sunday, February 25th, 2018. How's everybody doing? Apocalypse is already in the chat room and all this stuff, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Apocalypse. And Apocalypse has been a very good listener, and he's already given me topics to talk about, which, in my personal opinion, I think does not get talked about, does not get appreciated. Some might call it oppressive. I think it is. Let's talk about cheese, the best and the worst kind. People don't talk about that nowadays. The vegans have been oppressing us dairy lovers. It's true. It's very true. What kind of cheeses do I like? Parmesan. That's very good cheese. But the question was the best kind and the worst kind. Well, I think the worst kind is blue cheese. And actually, this is going to switch into actually a serious topic here. I hate blue cheese. It's fucking disgusting. Is there anything worse than blue cheese? It's all sour. Just tastes like maggots. It's terrible. Anywho. But yeah. Thank you for joining the podcast here, peoples. Anywho. Hope you enjoyed that little song here. I'm assuming the audio was pretty much going to be garbage. But yeah, I'm just a spontaneous podcast here. But yeah, yep. That was Masculinity by 10 years. And I think I wanted to talk about metal shows here a little bit because the past couple months or so, I've been able to go to some metal shows for the first time in about 3.5 years. So I've been to 2 metal shows. I went to another rock concert, poppy, I don't know what you want to call it. And again, I'm going to forget the name, so I'm not going to try because the name's going to come when I end the podcast, of course. But yeah, I went to that show in October, I think. So it was a little while ago, and they went to a couple of metal shows, last month or so. But yeah, one of them was that band that you just mentioned, 10 Years, Miscellanea, favorite song. Even though I barely know the band. But yeah, I knew the band before Ash's podcast and all that stuff. She has a great podcast. Luckily, I liked it and saved it and stuff like that in the archive. So when she deleted her podcast of that show or whatever, I'm still able to listen to it and save it. But yeah, she had a podcast where she introed music to where it was 10 Years Miscellanea, and it was I never heard that song, and it was so metal, so intense and so awesome. And I asked her in the middle of the podcast in the chat room thing, who was it? Of course, I was too dumb to figure out the notification where it actually said the band in the title. But mind you, she was nice enough to not call me out on my stupidity, but she knows I'm awful at technology. But yeah, so she said it was 10 Years of Miscellanea and all that stuff like that. And I stalk the venues of my local Portland area, Portland, Oregon, not Portland, Maine. And I stalk all the venues of shows, metal shows, comedy shows, etc., blah, blah, blah. And I noticed that 10 Years was coming to the Hawthorne Theater, and this was about 2 months ago. And so me and a lady friend like them. And so, yeah, we were thinking about going to that show. And so I got the tickets to go see 10 Years. And that was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I think, actually. And so, yeah, we saw 10 Years at the Hawthorne Theater. And they were amazing. And I don't really know the band well. I know they have one like pop rocky-ish song that was popular 10 years ago. For some reason, I want to say like, what was that? Stabby is my. He is a clingy as fuck. Stabby is my. Well, lady of the night, whatever. I take what I can get. Come on, Apocalypse. I'm just a gentleman, just wanting to please the ladies, right? Ugh. Yeah, no. But no, we had a really good time. The only thing that sucks though was they 10 years played for about an hour and 20 minutes. The encore included, this whole thing. But they never played Miscellanea, and I only really know them besides that. And they in the middle of their most popular song, it's like Water Tower. I don't know what I forget. I forgot the. Sorry, Sir Stabby. Sir Stabby, clingy boyfriend. Okay, now it's starting to make sense. Oh my god, both of you. See, I'm such a non-observant douchebag. Sir Stabby, hunks a lot. Posted something like 5 to 8 minutes ago, and I didn't even notice that Apocalypse's joke was pointing to that. Stabby is my boyfriend. He's clingy as fuck. Oh man, I'm such an unobservant douchebag. Wow. Wow. Anywho. So, what's that 10-year song? What's their most popular song? It's like a song that pop chicks love. I forget what it's called. But anywho, it was that song. But in the middle of the set, they played that song, and like halfway through the song, I was like, wait, oh shit, I know this song. And the lady friend that I went with was like, well, yeah, you didn't know. So that just proves how much I'm aware of that band. But I was like the band I saw before. Again, I can't remember the name, so don't expect me to remember it. I was hoping that they play that only song that I knew them from that I'd hope they played. They didn't play it, and just like 10 years, they didn't play Miscellanea. But still, it was a great show, actually. There was 3 people that played before them, so it was 4 bands total in like 3.5 hours. So it was yet again another really long, great set. So, I mean, I was pretty satisfied. It was pretty good. Even though they didn't play Miscellanea, it was still good. But, however, I want to let you guys know of another band that I saw right after that, which was one of my favorite bands. And I just think I'd like to play a little bit of this here. And I'm assuming most of you guys will, and hopefully you'll know who this is. And in case you don't, then, well, you'll know right after. But, yes, this is the band that I just saw. They haven't toured in Portland in 10 years. No pun intended. This is actually a fact. No pun douche intended. I'll say that for later. But yeah, this is the band that I saw a few weeks ago, and they're one of my favorites. They're fucking metal galore. Beautiful band. Love them. All right, yeah, fuck this. Due to technical difficulties, we're not going to listen to this abortion of trying to play music. That was trying to be Rational Gaze by Meshuggah. That is who I saw a few weeks ago at the Crystal Ballroom. Yeah, you know exactly what I was doing, Spree. But yeah, that's it. I'm too stupid for that. Apocalypse Spreaker has a good, easy dashboard where you can upload songs. I mean, Rational Gaze. Yes, Milo. Milo. Yeah, that's what I was playing. It was a Milo metal version. Exactly. It's his favorite song. Oh God, you're giving away my position there, Apocalypse. But yes, I am from the Pacific Northwest. Oh, actually, there's an interesting little snippet for Milo Yiannopoulos. Let's see here. But yeah, thank you all for joining this little goofy podcast here. Yes, we are going to talk about this right here. Just inspired me to play a little Milo video. As you guys know, probably Milo identifies as homosexual, but beyond that, he has his own podcast, and he has a lot of great guests, and he interviews people that actually don't pander towards social justice and the left and all that stuff. And mind you, you got to take your grain of salt with when the righty-tighties of the conservative side, blah, 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 pander towards their side. You got to, take it for what it is. But one thing that I do love is how all the CNNs and the not the Foxes, and the CNNs and the MSNs, NBCs, all that crap, do not talk about the Antifas of the world and how they completely and utterly do not talk about how Antifa is a violent, radical group and oppressive group at that. And one great example of how how the liberal leftist media does pander towards the Antifas of the world is remember when the whole Charlottesville, that white Nazi pig guy ran over the protesters and stuff, and Trump said they were both wrong on both sides, and they basically pegged it as Trump supports white nationalists, the whole typical thing. But Antifa was at that rally also, and they were also violent, and that's what Trump was saying. But of course, the liberal media, the leftist media, spun it to where Trump supports the KKK. Of course, we all do, right? Because we're white. That's not racist at all, is it, guys? Or at least bigoted or ignorant. But that will be ignored. But anywho, Milo was interviewing a person who identifies as female. And she talks about how Antifa was, how do I put it, a little bit rude towards her. But yeah, this is Milo's interview with Ashley Whitty, Whitty. She's a YouTuber, I guess. But yeah, she was at a rally, and she was her and her friends were attacked. I don't need to babble on about this crap. You'll know. You don't need my dumbass voice to hear about to know what happens. But yeah, this is her Milo being Ashley Whitty being interviewed by Milo about her encounter with Antifa. So here you go.
You yourself were stalked, I think, right, around Berkeley by Antifa.
Oh, many times, many times.
And what do they do? They follow you. They send you messages. What happens?
Well, Antifa actually stalked me and your crew, believe it or not, to a burger place at one point. I was actually stalked, I believe, in August, where I was at a free speech rally holding a sign that said, "Let's have a conversation." And
that's a hate crime. That's a hate crime. You should know better.
I mean, people, they were sent out to follow me, and they attacked me and my friends with lead pipes. We were in our car at the time, so thank God only the car got damaged.
They attacked you, and you were
thirdly,
they attacked your car with you in it, with pipes.
Yes, with lead pipes. For holding a sign that said, let's have a car. Well, I was at the rally, and I left the rally. Well, it turns out Antifa actually had me on a list. They had my picture and my name on a list, and they were tracking me via social media. And I look up as I'm interviewing with, I believe it was American Freedom Fighters. I look over and there's this woman on her phone. She's looking at us.
And she's reporting you to the others, saying she's spotted you.
Yes.
Wow.
And thirdly, I've actually had family members confirmed by an old childhood friend of mine who actually still doesn't talk to me. He hasn't spoken to me in 4 months now. Besides the fact that he told me this right after Christmas. Turns out I actually have family members giving out information of mine to Antifa members.
My God. Well, I think that makes it all the more impressive, your bravery and forthright plain speaking on these subjects. Constant fact of life being a conservative in America today is being shut down, having your avenues of revenue squeezed and throttled from you, being suffocated, being banned and excised from public life. This is something we are all experiencing. Support us if you can. You'll be able to enjoy an hour or so of me every day, Monday to Friday. We'll be in the studio, entertaining and amusing you. We'll have serious, substantive interviews several days of the week. If you want to enjoy this show, please go to dangerous.com/join.
All right, so you've heard Milo. Hopefully that was clear. Hopefully that audio was clear. I kind of doubted it. But yeah, if you heard him correctly, you know where to find him and how to find him, what time to find him, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, support Milo Yiannopoulos' his thing because he is an interesting cat. I like him. I like Ben Shapiro's approach a little bit more because he's less insulty, less blah, blah, blah. When it comes to like debate, functional, productive debate, it's, you know, if you're arguing with your girlfriend, you don't call her a cunt and a bitch and a whiny asshole, blah, blah, you know, you point out your argument and, you know, you don't insult when you're trying to, make an argument. And Milo does the opposite, which I love it. It just makes me feel good. Looks good, sounds good, and he actually does what Ben Shapiro does is make a great argument and point out the flaws in other people's philosophies, ideals, etc., etc. But, Ben Shapiro is just more functional about that. But anywho, yeah. So I mean, what do you guys think of that video? If that audio, if you heard it correctly, if it wasn't muffled as all hell. What do you think of the whole Antifa bashing in the car door and the windows and all stuff like that? Are you surprised? Of course you're not surprised. But why do you guys think that the media, especially the leftist media, doesn't cover this? Why does the leftist media? Why don't they cover this? Why don't they point out the flaws of groups that that support their cause in a shape or one way or another, rather? I don't know. Why does Antifa have different rhetoric when it comes to the Milwaukee riots of Black Lives Matter compared to other riots? I mean, I don't know. What do you think? So, on another note, we are going to listen to there's the interesting thing about this whole political correct and social justice feminism, modern feminism, and Antifa and Black Lives Matter, and just how the leftist groups and social justice groups of the world, how they've inspired so many people. It's insane of how many people have been blown up and how they've been blown up in the past 3 to 5 years. I mean, who are some individuals that you can name that were that are not on the SJW bandwagon, as it were, that have been blown up because of the blatant hypocrisy and the fascism that some parts of the leftist agenda, especially mainly the social justice warriors and the modern feminist groups and Black Lives Matter to a degree groups. I mean, it's in the LGBTQ and QI square root pi whatever thing. And how many people have been blown up by this that don't support a chunk or most of their, or whatever portion you like, their groups. I mean, I can name at least a handful right now. I mean, obviously, the one you just heard, Milo Yiannopoulos. That's one of them. He blew up very quickly. I remember watching this guy when he got only a few tens thousands, a few 100,000 people on Twitter. That's when he had Twitter. And then he'd get on YouTube, he'd get like 10 to 12 to maybe 100,000, maybe 500,000 with like one crazy video, or maybe 1 million with one or two crazy videos here and there, maybe. But he was on a very 10 to 20,000 click view like 3 years ago. Then all of a sudden, Twitter, and he was right, Twitter literally did blow up his career a few years ago, summer of 2016, right? Summer of 2016. That really blew him up. Twitter, being the social justice warrior, First Amendment hating cunt fucking corporation that they are, they support communication, but yet they don't. Ironic, isn't it? Just like fucking modern feminist rhetoric. So yeah, them blowing up, they literally blew up Milo Yiannopoulos' career. Obviously, they're not like single-handedly, but still. So Milo's one of them. Ben Shapiro has been slowly but surely getting there, and he's gotten pretty big. He's gotten all the riots, He's gotten, it's basically how you would measure someone's success on political activism, First Amendment activism, Second Right activism, typically First Amendment activism as the root. Sure, there have Second Amendment, trans, whatever activism you like, but First Amendment activism, First Amendment supporting, what have you, truly supporting the First Amendment. That's what I mean. How you measure that is on college campuses and in with media, especially with liberal media, the leftist media, is if they ban you or slander you, keyword slander you, then you are dangerous and that you are a threat and that they want to shut you down. And Milo was a good start at that. And who else? Ben Shapiro, yes. Who was another one? Well, that would be Dr. Christina Hoff Sommers, an actual second-wave feminist, a feminist liberal, is being fucking banned and shunned as a white supremacist, sexist, all this stuff. Yeah, so yeah. Okay, so there's that. So there's Dr. Christina Hoff Sommers, and then you got Jordan Peterson, Steven Crowder, and then a bunch of other people that names the names escape me, but I mean those are the handful of easy targets. And plus I played on my last podcast, I played a couple of videos of other people, and like the Alzheimer's ridden douchebag that I am, I forgot their names too. I'm terrible with names, but yeah, there's just an insane amount of people that are being completely suppressed because of this shit. And Ron, they get paid to keep the cultural Marxist narrative chugging along. Yep, exactly. Antifa got to be the most hardcore LARPing guild on the planet. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like you see all these videos of Antifa assaulting indiscriminately when it comes to gender, race, LGBT, all that stuff. It's just if you are just a person that does not fully support their Antifa lingo, their narrative, their ways, you'll be screwed. I mean, they've done it to people of color, that identify as color, that people that are not man, people that aren't that at the what was that infamous Milo one at UC Berkeley where one fucking pig pepper sprayed a young woman point blank. And then you can see another video where a woman was like being smashed up against the one of the guardrails and being beaten on her head with a pipe or some phallic shaped object. That was the patriarchy right there. So yeah, it's very interesting how Antifa loves to protect their ideology, and they support their anti-fascism with fascism, by not allowing people to speak. But Jordan Pierce, there's an interesting video, and I haven't even listened to it yet. But there's an interesting little bit here where Jordan Peterson is being interviewed about masculinity, about men, and everything like that. So I just wanted to share this video with you. Have you seen? Okay, AA Ron, have you seen the Proud Boys, all races welcome kind of group that fights against Antifa? Actually, no, I haven't. Let's look at that. The Proud Boys. Somehow I think that's white supremacist, right? Proud Boys. The Proud Boys is a far right. Okay, let's listen to this. And Gavin McInnes. Oh, how did I forget Gavin McInnes? He's, of course, one of the most infamous for being oppressed. Actual definition of oppression is not allowing people to speak. Gavin McInnes. He's another one. He's the guy that he's like Milo, but like on roids. He's like the Barry Bonds of Milo. He's like, yeah. I like Gavin McInnes because he literally bashes people that I fucking hate, which is the modern feminists and the SJWs and Black Lives Matter, and he basically pushes against the whole narrative of damn near all of masculinity of today, and well, not today. Who am I kidding? Masculinity of the olden days of where you go to work, you bring home the bacon and all that stuff like that, and the woman cooks, and he defends that, but he just I don't want to defend him too much. I'm not saying he's like a white nationalist, because that's just fucking stupid. That's what everyone says, but yeah, he's the hardest to defend out of everybody. The easiest to defend, I think, is Dr. Christine Hoff Sommers and Ben Shapiro, to me, because they go about it in Dr. Christine Hoff Sommers, she takes the cake as far as no, that's not fat shaming. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I should use another analogy that doesn't fat shame. But I actually saw her a couple years ago at the Portland Community College, being interviewed by Rubin Report guy, Dave Rubin, whatever his name is, Rubin Report, and Portland State University professor, and of course, dumb cunt feminists fucking heckled her and heckled him and all that stuff. You know the drill. It's actually becoming redundant to say that feminists were trying to heckle people. But yeah, I saw them both a couple years ago, and it was fucking wonderful. But yeah, Dr. Christine Hoff Sommers and Ben Shapiro are the ones that I would, as far as betting on someone who should lead the group, as far as the political group or the activist group or whatever group to, put reason, it'd be them, not Ben Shapiro, and especially not Gavin McInnes, because they're the ones that won't, name call and do all that stuff that's unproductive towards, a real discussion. Because, I love calling people out, and I love shitting on people. I love bashing people's balls or ovaries, or their identified balls or their identified ovaries, whatever you like. But, that's just not how, unfortunately, you can't call someone a dumb cunt for, and expect to be, be taken seriously or being heard. So, just imagine someone said that to you. So there you go. So that's why. But as far as the Proud Boys, sorry, AA Ron. But yeah, the Proud Boys is a quote-unquote a far-right men's rights, a men's organization founded in 2016 by Vice Media co-founder and former commentator Gavin McInnes. This is Wikipedia, so far-right men organization. So that's what they say the type of business is. Headquarters is in New York and founded in 2016, so who knows. But with one thing you need to know, we all need to know, or at least, it sounds so condescending. Ugh. One thing is that, obviously, that is so sad about media is that slander and libel, for some reason, is not punishable. Is actually doesn't really get called out as much. But I'm at the Proud Boys main page here. One of them, I guess, the SPLC Southern Poverty Law Center, the Proud Boys. But let's read a little bit here. Established in the midst of a 2016 presidential election by Vice Media co-founder Gavin McInnes, the Proud Boys are self-described Western chauvinists. Oh, yeah, of course. See, that's one reason why you can't really fully support Gavin, because, chauvinism is not going to go anywhere. Even if it's a joke and all this stuff like that, it's still Western chauvinists who admittedly deny any connection to the racist, quote-unquote, alt-right, insisting they are simply a fractional group spreading the quote-unquote anti-political correctness and quote-unquote anti-white guilt agenda. But, yeah, makes sense. But, when you say you're Western chauvinists, quote-unquote, self-described, they're self-described quote-unquote Western chauvinists. Whatever. But, their diswovials of bigotry are believed by their actions. Rank and file Proud Boys and leaders regularly spout white nationalist memes and maintain affiliations with known extremists. This is definitely not their page then. They are known for anti-Muslim and misogynistic rhetoric. Proud Boys have appeared alongside other hate groups at extreme gatherings like the Unite the Right. That's a hate group? Extreme group? I would say that it could be an extreme group because it's Unite the Right, but as far as a hate group, okay. Rally at Charlottesville. Oh, yeah, of course. Indeed, former Proud Boys member Jason Kessler helped to organize the event, which brought together Kelsman, anti-Semites, Southern racists, and militias. Kessler was also expelled from the group after the violence and near universal condemnation of the Charlottesville rally goers. Oh God. So basically, they're saying anyone who protested the Antifas were anti-Semites, Southern racists, militias, violence and oh my God! Other hardcore members of the so-called alt-right, quote unquote, have argued that the Western quote unquote Western chauvinists, quote unquote, label is just a PR cuck term, quote unquote. McInnes crafted the gain mainstream acceptance, quote. Let's not bullshit, quote. Brian what can't people have just normal names? Brian Bratsford, aka Calrus Rex, told his co-host at the anti-Semitic, the Daily Slaw, whatever, one of the most popular alt-right podcasts. If the Proud Boys, quote, were pressed on the issue, I guarantee you that like 90% of them would tell you something along the lines of Hitler was right, gas the Jews. End quote. Right. I've, mind you, all the people that I've mentioned, the whole Ben Shapiro's, Christian Summers, and even Gavin McInnes, I've literally listened to, not religiously, but damn near religiously, the past 2.5 to 5 years. And I've never, ever heard Gavin McInnes support any Jew-hating, anti-Semite, Hail Hitler, anything. The only thing I would say, if you took everything that he said literally, I would say that he is a misogynist, that he hates the fact that women are out of the kitchen. And all that. That's if I'm taking him 100% seriously. But, mind you, I think that he, the biggest flaw about him is if he truly believes this, fair enough. If he truly believes this in a modern day where women should be at home and men should be at work, I 100% do not agree. I think it's just stupid and archaic. And plus it's just dumb, pointless argument. It's just do I think some children should be raised by their kids? Yes. Do I think women should do that? Not 100% no, because what do children, especially newborns, need? They need food, which comes from, typically if the woman can lactate, woman's tit. So we have technology nowadays that can take that, and plus we have formula, which is not as good for the kids, which is, we should actually take, breast milk, not, but that's another point. You get where I'm fucking going. So that's one argument that is completely and utterly taken away because we have ways to get breast milk and save it so where the husband, the stay-at-home husband, if you will, can actually take care of the kids that way. So feeding is not the issue. So I don't see any other, I cannot think of any situation to where, a woman going to work and a man staying at home is an issue. The only issue I would say is there's a little chunk of me that does not trust the whole man staying at home, not having a job, not making money, and the woman doing all that, being the breadwinner. The only thing that I do not trust about that is, how many women out there, I'm just talking about a betting game, an odds game. I'm just talking about this. Some women can take it, some women can't, some women don't care, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But how many women out there are okay with it, love it, don't mind it, whatever, or is not going to, put a damper on the relationship if the man does not bring in any money and she brings in all the money, etc., etc. Everything works, he's taking care of the house, she's working. You get it. Because there's still this big old paranoia thing about me, because I've seen it a million times. Guys that are listening, females that are listening, if there is any females listening still, I commend you. Where's Ash, by the way? Come on, damn it. So, the thing is, technically, typically, what have you, women appreciate a guy that can bring in the money, because, women love a guy who has confidence, yes, but also is control and brings home the bacon and all that stuff. It's just okay, Ron. The only thing you can say is if you happen to marry like some ultra successful woman that makes crazy money, then you might as well not bother working your regular jobs, your regular salary job. Yeah, and that's a very good point, and I should have mentioned that before. That's a great point, Ron. And that's what I've made in classes at sociology. There's those uber feministy groupie fucking classes. In the past is I wouldn't mind doing if I were to have kids and or if I were to be married and all that stuff and have kids, I would stay at home. If she had a big old badass job and I didn't. However, if it was equal, personally, I would love to have a wife that doesn't have to work. Ron. See, I don't mind either way. But I'll digress on the first point is it's just I don't trust it. I do not trust that a woman would typically be okay with it, wouldn't eventually look down on you, wouldn't, and this is not like some woman hating thing. It's just I just think biology kicks in a little bit too much in categories like this. I mean, do women have the capability of not caring? Yes, I'm not saying that. We've already established that. I just do not trust that a woman will fully respect a man that does not work. Yes, you'll love the fact that you take care of the kids and that you're a man of your word and all this other stuff. Yes, 100%. Take care of the kids, wiping diapers. You know, the whole saying is like, women love a man who takes out the garbage and does the dishes. You know, yes, of course they do, because I don't like doing dishes either. So it is kind of a turn on when, you do all these little stupid jobs that I hate. Yes, of course. But, I mean, there's a type of power and control and authority, not oppressive authority, not belittling authority or what have you, but there's just a type of authority that women look up to a guy that has his shit together, that is the top dog. And do women truly look at a guy who's a stay-at-home husband as that? Yes, no, maybe so, but I put my money on most of them. The majority, should I say, do not. Whether it's 50.00 to the 1,000 to 1, or it's 99.9999. I don't know. I don't care. All I know is I will be very, very paranoid if I were to be in a situation to where I'm with a lady and I have a kid, and she says, stay at home, like you to stay at home, and I'll work. I will not trust that she'll fully be appreciated or fully be turned on by the fact, or look down, or will not look down on me, just naturally, instinctively, whatever. But okay, enough of that. We're done. But yeah, that's just 2 cents on that. But yeah, So, I mean, am I wrong? I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think that's Gavin McInnes type of style thinking that the majority, whether it's 50% or 99% of women, don't like or won't respect truly, or won't be turned on by a guy who doesn't work, provides like that? I mean, I think that's just, I don't think so. I really don't think that women truly, typically, majority-wise, like that. Some do, some don't, whatever, just, yeah, make money, be powerful. All right, let's get into the Jordan Peterson interview here. So yeah, he's basically talking about we're alienating young men, and it's sad. So yeah, he's talking about youth and the future of youth here. So let's get into this right here.
I read a fascinating interview with you, and you were talking about the plight of young men and how guys really need to get their act together. You went on to say the lack of an identifiable and compelling path forward and the denialism these kids are being fed on a daily basis and undoubtedly destroying them, and that is especially true of the young men. This show we've covered widely the fact that suicide is the biggest killer of young men under the age of 45 in this country. It goes on in that interview to say, at this point, to my astonishment, Peterson begins to weep.
Yeah, well, it says, see, now it did it to me again. Look, last night, I was at this talk I gave, and about 1,000 people came, and about 500 of them stayed afterwards, and most of them were young men, and just one of them after the other comes up to me, and they shake my hand, and they say, look, I've been listening to what you've been saying for 6 months, and it's changed my life. It's like I was depressed, I was addicted to drugs, my relationships weren't working out, I was hopeless, I didn't have any goal. I started cleaning up my room and telling the truth and working hard on myself, and it's really working, and I just want to thank you for helping me. And I think, God, it's so sad that so many of these men, they've not had an encouraging bloody word, a real encouraging word in their entire life. It just takes a little bit of encouragement and care so that they're willing to set themselves straight to some degree and start trying. It's just a catastrophe that's so rare in their lives. And so, yeah, well, every time, you see, because I see the same thing when I'm talking, my audiences are often composed mostly of men between, say, 20 and 35, not exactly young, but young enough. And they're desperate for a discussion about responsibility and fair play and noble being and working properly in the world, and the idea, and to hear the idea that their lives actually matter, that if they straighten themselves up and fly right, that they'll have a beneficial effect on themselves and their family and the community, and that the world is starving for that. And then for them as individuals, not for them as a group, but for each of them as individuals. So, yeah, it breaks me up. Every time the topic comes up, it breaks me up because it's so damn sad. And we're so stupid. We're alienating young men. We're telling them that they're patriarchal oppressors and denizens of rape culture and tyrants in waiting, and we fail to discriminate between their competence and their tyranny. And it's awful. It's so destructive. It's so unnecessary. And it's so sad. And so whenever I think about it, especially because of all that I've seen of it, it makes me sad, like deeply. It's so sad.
Why has it happened?
Oh, God, that's a complicated question. I mean, well, it's partly happened because every culture has a tyrannical element, I mean, our culture isn't perfect. There is oppressive elements to it. It's not completely fair. So some of it is just the age-old observation that you don't get a culture without a bit of a tyranny. A lot of it is resentment and failure to take responsibility. It's people saying, instead of looking at the part they play in making the world a dark and terrible place, they blame something like the patriarchy and then assume that all the men who compose it are somehow malevolent tyrants or tyrants in waiting. It's like it's ideological possession. There's just no excuse for it. It's motivated by resentment.
Does feminism have a role to play in that?
Well,
Yes, it does.
Depends on how you define feminism. If it's the feminism that says, wouldn't it be lovely if women could offer what they have to the world so that the world would be a better place on the same footings as men? Well, no, that's great. If it's the feminism that says that Western culture is an evil, corrupt patriarchy, then absolutely. There's no excuse for that sort of thing.
And that's the vast, 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 vast majority of what Western feminism is. Australia, Canada, all parts of Europe, and America, of course, is that Western civilization and all those places is a very oppressive, woman-hating, not white-hating, non-Christian hating, etc., blah, blah, blah. You get the, it hates people that are not LGBTQ, blah, blah, blah. Hate, not kind of fucks them over, kind of screws them over, but hates them, screws them over, oppresses them blatantly, and on such a violent level, it's sickening. Hitler-esque is what the leftists and the SJW groups use a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a big role. And I want to bring this. I'll bring this back just a little bit. I'm not going to bring it back a couple minutes of this interview, but yeah, this is the problem. And the funny thing is, I mean, it feels mainly. I mean, I'm going to sound condescending here, and fuck it. You guys know I'm full of shit. I love these topics, but I don't take them so seriously to where I know that all these people are true and I'm true. It's just, I'm a fucking dope. I'm only 29. I've experienced some life here. I've seen a lot of, in whatever measures you like, but I know I'm a fucking dope, and I don't take everything. I take I try to take everything that I experience with a grain of salt, but college. The thing about going to American colleges, especially in a college in the Pacific Northwest, Portland, Oregon area, taking colleges in a very liberal area, in a very liberal town, a very leftist town, and leftist everything, is that you really get to see a lot of that side of thinking. You get to see a very, very, very one-sided plane. It's a very... Going to this college has made me see a very one-sided playing field. That playing field is a very leftist liberal type field. It's also a very social justice warrior type and modern feminist type and a very Black Lives Matter type. Not much Black Lives Matter stuff is in in my college that I go to, but it's a violently social justice warrior, LGBTQ, and especially modern feminist and liberal leftist type. Very, very violently liberal and leftist. It's just it's very, very disturbing that you see so much propaganda. I mean, they have the what I call the white men are evil coat hanger line. They have this line next to the library where they hang a bunch of T-shirts that are like, what fourth graders would the super glue. You remember back in when you were third grade and stuff, you'd like use that super glue, those like green and sparkly and stuff. You'd like super glue your shirts and stuff like that, or whatever it was called. Well, that's what these grown, quote unquote, grown men and women have been doing, and they do the it's basically, and the funny thing is, it's sponsored by the Women's Resource Center about making note of domestic violence and equality and all that stuff. It's preaching equality and making awareness of against violence, but you'll see on the undertones and even on the even blatantly violence against women and all this stuff like that. It's about equality, but it's only about But the main thing is about violence against women, and you'll see all these shirts. I've been reading these shirts for 5 years now, every year, 5 years like clockwork, and it's all about violence against women and LGBT. And there's one, I actually saw a shirt last year, a few months ago, whatever it was, but it was last year, whereas there's one shirt where it said, it wasn't blatant, but it was basically this dude mentioned the fact that this woman basically assaulted and abused them and all that stuff. That was basically the only thing I saw in the 5 years, to where it wasn't all about either you didn't know exactly what happened, or it was the man did it and all that stuff like that. Mind you, I don't think these things are bad. I just think they're very one-sided. It's the Me Too movement's very important. We need to call out oppressive males doing all this awful, disgusting shit to women. Because of course, if they're our mothers, blood daughters, you get the drill. Of course, we wouldn't like it, and of course, we don't like it. It's just the fact that where is this going? That's the point. So that's the Aziz Ansari, that pussy wet feminist douchebag. I fucking can't stand that douchebag. But when he gets called out for being a Me Too candidate, the bitch had a bad date and she blew him and she got eaten out by the guy. Really? And you just look, if any of you guys don't know the Aziz Ansari thing, just look it up and maybe things are going to change. Maybe it's going to be totally wrong. And I'm not saying something is wrong or right here, but but all I'm saying is if you're really going to call a guy out and do the whole hashtag Me Too bullshit, just make sure that you were completely consensual, because it didn't sound like you were. Allegedly, of course. Just like allegedly Aziz Ansari is a rapist. But, man, see me in my fucking babble train, I swear to God. I can babble really well. But it's just not that good. Get it? Ron, feminism made women crazy as well, so many fighting against their natural instincts, trying to prove the white man wrong. Yeah, well, and that's the funny thing is, maybe it's just me, but I think what the SJWs and the this and the that's and the liberal leftists and stuff like that, I think obviously the white man's one of their biggest, that's the biggest one of the biggest ones, but I think man, I don't know tell me what you think. Do you think white men are criticized more, or white people are criticized more, or are men criticized more? Because in my personal opinion, I think men are on the attack more than white people are. That's just me. And that's why I think the whole gender thing is more interesting, more important, I guess, if you will, than the whole race thing. Because, mind you, the whole racism makes no sense to me. Hating somebody because of their race makes no sense to me. Because, I mean, it's just a philosophy that I cannot. It's just a philosophy that I cannot understand. But maybe because I'm going to do the white guy. Hey, the white guy proves he's not racist by saying he's got a black friend thing or whatever. I don't know, but I don't know. I just I don't know. That's why I would like to hear other people's voice here. Overall, yeah, probably men. Ron. Yeah, thank you, Ben. Cool. Thank you, everyone. This has been one of the most stimulating podcasts as far as comments go. So I appreciate everyone's comments and everything like that. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the support and everything. Thank you guys. But I think maybe more so men than white people. So that's one reason why I think this whole Jordan Peterson interview right here is so important. Because like you said, the vast of suicide is men, but feminists don't talk about it. That's. But let's get back to this here.
Does feminism have a role to play in that?
Well, it depends on how you define feminism. If it's the feminism that says, wouldn't it be lovely if women could offer what they have to the world so that the world would be a better place on the same footings as men? Well, no, that's great. If it's the feminism that says that Western culture is an evil, corrupt patriarchy, then absolutely. There's no excuse for that sort of thing, and it completely dominates the universities, especially in the humanities. We really believe, most left-wing academics believe, that the Western culture is a corrupt patriarchal tyranny. I mean, God, wake up! Most governments in the world are run by thugs, absolute thugs. They'll kick in your door and kill you in your sleep. In the West, we have, a wonderful civilization. People are as free as they've ever been. You can live well here as an individual, and to consider that, a corrupt patriarchal tyranny, and to lay that at the feet of young men, and then to tell them that they have to be discriminated against because of the systemic, let's say, racism and misogyny of the past. It's appalling. And men are bailing out of universities at a rate. This is not my opinion. I've been tracking these statistics for 15 years. Men are bailing out of universities at a rate you just would not believe. There won't be a man left in the humanities in 15 years at this rate. All you have to do is look at the trends. It's quite obvious, and it's no wonder. And it's just appalling. And I've also been described as misogynist because, I've been trying to strengthen young men. It's like, of all the ridiculous ideas, that strengthening young men is somehow misogynist. I mean, God, I can't even believe what you would have to think that was a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there you go. That was his little take on that. So, I mean, hell, what do you think? Yeah, excuse me while I... Shut up. Shut up. There we go. So yeah, what do you think? Alright, we got some, got some things here by A.A. Ron here. One thing about at least the majority of UK university students is that they are mainly just trying to sleep with each other. Well, that's pretty normal. I've never seen with my own eyes something like an Antifa guy or a feminist march. Yeah, well, yeah, no shit. I've seen a lot of the time on campuses, worked at them in the in the offices for years after I stopped studying. Yeah, it's really depressing. It's really depressing. Working and being just being in colleges.
The Me Too awakening.
Yeah. It's really depressing. And even 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, 2.5, whatever, 3 years ago, I went to a I went to a toxic masculinity seminar at my college campus because I knew this was going to be great podcast material, and a male feminist speaker from a feminist mother was speaking, and this is of course funded by the Women's Resource Center, of course, and all their propaganda and their papers and their pins and their ribbons and their condoms and all that stuff was all sponsored by them and supported by them and all that stuff like that. Besides the blatant misandry that was spewed by them, the head of the Women's Resource Center actually said that. Actually said this. I'm going to paraphrase here, but the head of the Women's Resource Center at the college campus that I go to said that she felt it was holding women, that society holds women back, and it's oppressive to women because women are expected to take care of their man when they are sick and ill, because that's what society thinks that women should do. When a man's sick and unfit and unable to do his thing, basically, women are expected to, or should, or it should be promoted that they help heal, help take care of their man. And she felt like that was oppressive and holds women back because you are ultimately helping the man get better. That was paraphrased, of course. Take it with a grain of salt. But that was pretty much the gist of what the head of the Women's Resource Center at my college campus said. Mind you, this is what propaganda she promoted and gave out. One of them was how men can be better male feminists. Big old paper with, the list, like top 10 things, thing. This was a seven things that men can do to be better male feminists. And then the other paper was top 10 things men can do to prevent gender violence. I'll say this one last time. Top 10 things men can do to prevent gender violence. So let's break down the male feminist thing real quick. First off, not one of those things to be a better male feminist, not one of those things was to help men at all. It all was catering to women. Violence against women, sexual assault against women, oppression against women, jokes against women, even jokes against women. I'm not even joking. I got the paper right here. I can read it if you would like me to read it. And also the whole patriarchy, male-female wage gap crap, that whole thing. It's the typical stuff. But the real kicker here is the top 10 things men can do to prevent gender violence. Again, this is a top 10 things men can do to prevent gender violence. Gender being the key word here. 10 things. Every single one of those lists, except for one, only talked about preventing violence against women. Whether it's sexual assault, verbal assault, physical violence, rape, everything. Even, again, brings back down to the jokes or the talking down to mansplaining, manspreading, that whole thing. All of this stuff talked about preventing violence and injustice against women. Only against women. And again, this was a list of what men can do to prevent gender violence. Gender, meaning all genders. Even if you're a LGBTQI to the square root of pi fucker, that means all genders, which means you include men in that. So how do you prevent violence against men? And they literally, on all 2 of those papers, did not include men at all. There's one of them on the 10 things men can do to prevent gender violence. One of them mentioned the LGBTQ community. Didn't talk about men, just talked about LGBTQ. Not being homophobic, transphobic, and all that stuff like that. That's all it said. It didn't say anything you can do to prevent gender violence against men. Not at all. Not even the typical leftist feminist crap was men being violent towards men. They didn't even mention that. This is shit that was promoted by and funded by and supported by the fucking Women's Resource Center of a community college, the biggest, most money-making community college in all of Oregon. And even the biggest campus, too. Yeah, look it up. Yeah, nice little contradiction there. And this is, and yet when you talk about this to feminists, they just go, oh, that's patriarchy. Oh, yeah, well, men are so much less likely to be hit domestic violence victims against women. It's like, well, yeah. And the funny thing about the whole domestic violence ratio thing is another cute little thing is the feminists talk about, especially that Emily, what's her name? Emily, what's that Harry Potter bitch? When she talked about how the man box, about how men are given the space to cry and share their feelings and talk about, their struggles and their softness and, all this stuff. Which I think is actually kind of true, but the big old contradiction about that is if you truly believe that to be true, if these feminists truly believe that there's this men can't be, the patriarchy and all, whatever it is, that men are just like these, that don't express themselves. Emma Watson, ugh, cunt. Thank you. Ugh. Emma Watson, Jesus. But yeah, all these feminists that believe this whole man box thing, this man box theory, talk about how men don't communicate, men don't express themselves, men just don't express themselves, they don't do all this stuff, and yet they will, when you bring that up, they'll they'll sternly believe that the whole domestic violence ratio of all these victims of intimate partner domestic violence, and how the vast majority of the intimate partner domestic violence is men on women, men abusing women. But then when you bring up the whole well, wait, you believe that the whole man box thing, men don't express themselves, don't admit their weaknesses and all that stuff like that. Wait, wouldn't that kind of also contribute to why the numbers of women beating men or hitting, men, etc., blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't that be a reason why you think the ratios might be skewed a little bit, or the numbers might be off a bit for, intimate partner violence against men? Oh, no. We won't bring that up. No. They'll just bring up they'll just bring up the fact that, most domestic violence and rape charges won't be even brought up because women are fearful. They'll bring that up, but they won't bring up the whole men thing. But if you target that towards women beating up, it's just again, they cannot put themselves in check. It's like it's like a person who lives their life, gets fucked over by society, gets fucked over by people, works hard, fucks over themselves with bad decisions, their own fault, but the only thing that they bring up as far as the only reason why they're not successful is the fact of other people. They don't mention the fact that they took bad loans, that they took bad deals, that they married the wrong woman, that they married the wrong person, that they bought a Mercedes when they couldn't afford it, that they tried to buy a home when they couldn't afford it, that they spent all the money on their credit cards. They won't accept that. It's about accountability. They don't accept accountability. And that's a nice little snippet onto this little movement here. Dr. Christina Palmer is talking about the Me Too movement. So let's go into this.
The Me Too awakening is an historic moment. It has the potential to correct long-tolerated abuses and to lead to a new era of understanding and respect between men and women. Please, let's not allow it to be hijacked by delusions of gender Armageddon. That's coming up next on The Factual Feminist. Harper's Bazaar, a popular fashion magazine, recently ran an article about the notorious date between Aziz Ansari and an anonymous woman known as Grace. Many asked, why didn't Grace just leave? The Harper's article offered an increasingly common explanation. Perhaps she was frightened. Women often go along with unwanted sex on dates because, the article claims, women are afraid men will murder them. Well, the author, Me Too activist Jennifer Wright, quotes a favorite feminist adage from novelist Margaret Atwood. Men are afraid women will laugh at them. Women are afraid men will kill them. Wright conjures alarming statistics to justify the fear. For example, that 98% of homicidal partners are male. Well, that figure is beyond misleading. The author apparently didn't check the source. According to the Justice Department, approximately 30% of homicidal partners are female, 70% male. Now, all of these deaths are tragic, but they do little to support Wright's fears. There are more men who kill women than vice versa, but that's because men are more likely to kill, period. And for the most part, they kill other men. Nearly 80% of murder victims are men. The odds of a woman being killed on her date are infinitesimally small. But the odds that baseless attacks on men will weaken a great movement are high. If today's sexual reckoning is to achieve lasting progress, it must be a human undertaking. It's something men and women must work on together. We need to dispense with "men want to kill us" rhetorical fantasies. We're not in a war against half the human race. Guilt by association is wrong. And so, for that matter, is innocence by association, which is the premise behind the slogan, "Believe all women." Women, like men, are fallible beings. Even the feminist standard-bearer Margaret Atwood acknowledged this in a recent article on the excesses of Me Too. My fundamental position, Atwood said, is that women are human beings with a full range of saintly and demonic behaviors this entails, including criminal ones. They are not angels, incapable of wrongdoing. I think her words should be etched in stone. The Factual Feminist is also concerned about the hysterical overreaction to anyone who dares to introduce a note of moderation. Consider what happened to the actor Matt Damon. In an interview with ABC in December of 2017, Damon described Me Too as totally necessary, and he said that all forms of harassment had to be eradicated without question. But he insisted on nuance. There is a difference, he said, between patting someone on the butt and rape or child molestation. There is a spectrum of behavior, running from the iniquities of Harvey Weinstein to the boorish indiscretions of Senator Al Franken. And punishment ought to be proportionate. Minor transgressors shouldn't necessarily lose their jobs. In such cases, there's a place for remorse, apology, forgiveness. Well, Damon's comments were reasonable, humane. Who could possibly disagree? Well, a lot of people apparently, more than 28,000 Me Tooers signed a petition demanding that Damon be erased from an upcoming film. Progressive Twitter was outraged. Minnie Driver, Damon's former co-star, tweeted that he was systematically part of the problem, and she'd later tell The Guardian that there is no hierarchy of abuse. It's all effing wrong. Her advice to Damon and men everywhere was to remain silent.
Her advice was, remain silent, men. I don't want women to be silent, so I want men to be silent because I want gender equality. And I hate hypocrisy. I hate oppression, so I'm going to fight oppression with oppression. I still can't. I still get it. It's like a white guy going, I hate racism, so all you niggers and spooks get out of my fucking town, because I hate racism. Right. Okay, good job there, racist white guy. Yeah, okay. You sure do hate racism, don't you, buddy? Ugh.
Right now is for men just to listen. Well, I'm a woman, so I don't have to be silent, and I think Damon was right. Many drivers claim that there is no hierarchy of abuse is incoherent. Gradations of harm and degrees of guilt are fundamental to our moral intuitions and our legal system. Our criminal laws make many fine distinctions among bad and worse actions, and so do our judgments of others in everyday life. As comedian Bill Maher pointed out, justice requires weighing things. That's why Lady Justice is holding a scale and not a sawn-off shotgun. And telling men as a species to shut up and listen, that isn't progress, it's sexism. Now, it's tempting to dismiss Twitter mobs, internet petitioners, and denunciations from angry co-stars as just a lot of noise. But people who are subject to such attacks are rightly fearful for their careers. And that noise seems to have intimidated Mr. Damon. On January 16th, he issued an apology on the Today Show. Boy, I really wish I'd listened a lot more before I weighed in on this. Well, what I wish is that Damon did not have to issue a ritual recantation and that men and women could discuss the issues freely and rationally. If men and women of goodwill could work together, they can make historic progress in the fight against harassment and abuse. But to succeed, the movement is going to have to channel its outrage and confront its own excesses. Let me know your thoughts about what I've said in the comments section. If you like this video, please show your support by subscribing to the series and following me on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for watching The Factual Feminist.
All right, yeah, so that was one of my favorite peoples that I just mentioned before. That's Dr. Christina Hoff Summers. She is... her video was the hashtag MeToo movement or witch hunt, factual feminist. It's where the factual feminist video thing is. It's American Enterprise Institute. So that is the video that I was showing here. So the YouTube channel is the American Enterprise Institute, and the channel whatever I don't know technology too well. I'm just a dope. Just like click stuff and points at stuff. But it's called the Factual Feminist. So if you like her stuff, you're intrigued by her stuff, look up her stuff on the American Enterprise Institute, the Factual Feminist. Factual Feminist, and also just look her up in general because she's a intriguing woman, very interesting woman. She is, and one reason why I talk so highly of her is is I think she literally holds the key to the root of, well, talk, if you want to do some like, well, no, it's just the root of where college culture, leftist extremism, modern feminism, SJWs and all that stuff went amok and started being racist against white people and racist against white people and sexist against men, especially sexist against men, and just all this, very leftist, liberal, man-hating, white-hating garbage, slander, and libel. She's for you that don't know her, she's about in her 40s, 50s, somewhere around there, and she was a former professor for like 20, 30 years, and in the 80s and 90s, and she, like I said, she's a second wave feminist, and she's still a feminist and all that stuff. So, and a liberal too, leftist liberal. So she, in her professor days, she has a very interesting story about how she got introduced to the gender studies courses and gender studies and feminist professors and all that stuff. So just look up her interviews when it comes to stuff like that. Just look up interviews. I mean, she points out a lot of very interesting things to where you can see the slanderous and sexist and basically cultish and tribalistic and what would you call that? To where the feminists had a political agenda, basically, to pass on their misandry and their hate and their bigotry and their oppression through college. It's very interesting when you listen to it. So she has a lot of insight to that. So I really find it very interesting. So I hope you do as well. And this podcast has gone on way too long. Way too long. So I'm going to go and make some food because I am tired and hungry. And mainly this podcast needs to end. An hour and a half is way too long to listen to my dumbass. But thank you to Aaron, Ron, Apocalypse, of course. Apocalypse has been very, very good to this podcast, just like Ashes, and then Stir Stabby, Hugs a lot. Thank you very much for joining this podcast. I don't think I've ever seen you in this podcast, so I appreciate you too. Thank you guys for listening and everything. So I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you. Yeah, thank you very much, Aaron. Appreciate you, man. All right, have a good night, you guys. All right, have a good night, you kents. Bye-bye.